Can I?
And then the question of the boundaries. The boundaries, Nkrumah warned us, and I think that Nkrumah and those who are there were simply saying, all these things that we have created called countries are artificial. And somebody, I think, put it very well. I don't know whether it was Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, and he was just being melodramatic, but he made the point. He said that when they created Uganda, with the Kenya-Uganda border, if you had a wife, you slept, you are on both sides in a place, and the following day you woke up with your wife in Uganda and your husband in Kenya. And you have communities divided in that way. And if you are to start to redraw these boundaries, then there would be conflict. So he said, let us retain them. But we have seen that in the recent past, for some reason, we have created other countries. Out of Sudan, we now have South Sudan. And you could also see the very deliberate act of the colonizer, that almost on the eve of independence, the countries were put together. In Nigeria, almost on the eve of independence, the countries were put together. In Cameroon, which is now a problem, and it allows me, Cameroon allows me to tell you how the neo-colonial countries still work. Only 2 days ago, I think there was a vote on the issue of Cameroon. Everybody acknowledges that what is happening in the southern Cameroons is something that ought to have the world attention. See who voted against it. France, with the rest of the other countries. All the other permanent members and others voted in favor of the right thing. But France chose a position that is in support of the current administration for good reason. And see how southern Cameroon is defined, to tell you how the neo-colonial project works. Francophone and Anglophone. If you go to the so-called Anglophone, I suspect that 95% of the population cannot speak English, but they are defined as Anglophone. You go to the Francophone, 95% of they cannot say anything beyond we and no, but they are defined as Francophone. In other words, even the manner see even right now, which continent is defined in linguistic terms? It is Africa. Anglophone, Lusophone, Francophone. And I'm submitting, therefore, that the whole idea of boundaries was, let us do the best. And that is why Kwame was saying, let us unite, because when we unite, then we dissolve the boundaries. The boundaries simply become administrative, and they don't become things that would lead us to war. And I look forward to the day that that will be achieved, so that we have these porous boundaries where I fly to Rwanda 1 hour and 30 minutes, I have a different currency. I go to Uganda 25 minutes, I have a different currency. I go to Sudan, I have all other currency. And that is why 55 of us, the 1.5 billion of us, all our currencies are not defined. If they are not hard, then they must be soft. All our currencies are soft currencies. Systems and changes. You talked about the changes that we have seen in the last few years. It is now in the public domain that the first coup d'etats that were mounted in Africa were at the behest of the erstwhile colonizers. We know Lude de Witt, he's not a Congolese, has written that Patrice Emery Lumumba was murdered at the behest of the Belgians. We know that Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown at the behest of the Americans and the British. We know that Sylvanus Olympia was eliminated at the behest of the French. We know. Because we know that Modibo Keita of Mali was eliminated at the behest of France. Much more recently, we know that Thomas Sankara was eliminated at the behest of the French. We know all these. And it is because if anybody emerges who is articulating a vision which is in danger of compromising the pernicious role of these erstwhile colonizers, then he has to be neutralized. These are contentious views, but they are views that are there nevertheless. And then, of course, we know that there were proxy wars that were being fought. Everybody knew, for example, that Mobutu Sese Seko was running something that was improper. But it was in the interest of certain powers, which are not African, that Mobutu remains. We know that Jean Bedel Bokassa was running something that was not proper, but it was in the interest of certain powers that he remains. And We are therefore saying that it took the people themselves, and this brings me to the final limb of this question. It took the people themselves to begin to liberate themselves from such method. It took Meles Zenawi in Ethiopia to overthrow the system. It took Paul Kagame and RPF to solve the problem in Rwanda. It took Yoweri Museveni to solve the problem. It took Robert Mugabe to solve the problem. It took Samora Machel. It took Agostino Neto. Because the people are now saying, nobody is going to solve our problems. We've got to solve our problem. The tragedy is, the leaders of the revolution ended up being the abusers of the revolution. And that is where we now find ourselves when the people are now coming up. The Arab Spring is a product, in my assessment, and I may be mistaken, of the people saying, you have betrayed us. And if you see what is happening in Khartoum, they are saying, no, this time round,